Aber Freunde, wir gucken das hier an. 47 Minecraft-Block-Fakten, die du vielleicht verpasst hast. Das Ding ist, ich bin ein absoluter Loser im Bauen und eventuell lernt man da was.
Did you know that you can craft netherite into stairs? Or how
Das stimmt nicht, ist schon wieder falsch. Gelogen, wenn das stimmt, fresse ich einen Besen.
about this official trick to make an infinite lava source? And today we're joined by the
kenn
channel
ich.
Block Facts to cover the 47 Minecraft block facts you possibly didn't know. And
Wait, oder sind das auch so Mods und so? Ja, wir gucken
hey,
mal.
YouTube told me straight up that absolutely 0 people have subscribed using their nose. So, if you're up to the challenge, park
Ich wette, von all seinen Abonnenten hat das schon mal einer gemacht.
your schnoz on that red button down below. It's free, and it helps out a ton. It's physically possible to explode a block of obsidian. Now, obviously, you couldn't do this with regular TNT,
Das
no
weiß
matter
ich
how many
actually.
explode at once.
Das weiß ich, man kann tatsächlich Obsidian kaputt machen, aber man braucht eine bestimmte Stärke und die ist so stark, dass man das nur mit einem Comment machen
But if
kann.
you use this command to summon a prime piece of TNT with an explosion power of 72 or
Ja,
above,
das,
it'll
ich wusste actually.
be strong enough to destroy a piece of obsidian. This here is called invisible bedrock. And if you can't see what I'm talking about, that's kind of the point. Now, this behaves much like the barrier block,
Okay, sagen,
except
ist es nicht
it's
einfach Barrier?
exclusive to the bedrock edition of Minecraft. And it was
So.
originally used in the game to create these world boundaries around old worlds. But those world boundaries didn't go past build height, so if you just built up high enough, you could walk over it.
Oh
This
mein Gott, ist das
cactus is
dumm.
23 blocks tall, and what's even more impressive is that this cactus spawned naturally. Thanks to the Minecraft at Home research project,
That's
the
krass.
community has discovered seeds you can load up in Java 1.14.4 and see this huge cactus.
Ja,
So if
das ist halt krass.
you need a bunch of green dye, I'd say this is a good start.
In the Snapshot 12W32A, we got a new block called Work in Progress. A catchy name, I know. But even unfinished, I'm sure any Minecraft veteran can notice that this eventually became what we call the Beacon block. Though
Es war einfach noch nicht der fertige Beacon, es war einfach so Testing.
to get there, it
Im April Fools konnte man die craften, WTF.
had to go through 4 separate texture variations, which definitely lives up to the Work in Progress name after all. Turtle
Ich finde, der Beacon könnte aber cooler sein in Minecraft. Der ist ein bisschen low dafür, das, was er ist.
eggs are stronger than you think, because even though these eggs can't support the weight of the player or other mobs, they can support lanterns that are either placed above or below them. But it's worth noting that the lantern does look like it's floating in those cases, so maybe that's why they
Aber sieht doch scheiße
don't
aus.
break. It was never there in the first place.
A netherite beacon looks expensive, but how much would it cost? Well, all the ancient debris alone would be 5,904
Das ist teuer, Alter.
pieces. And all of those items would take up 92.25 stacks and fill up nearly 3.5 shulker boxes. Which makes
Alter.
this one by Watz even more impressive.
The reason that beds
That's halt so
explode in the
dumm.
nether is because Notch was lazy. Well, that's an oversimplification. But he has gone on record saying that this is the easiest solution to whether or not the player should respawn in the other dimensions. And it's funny to think
Das stimmt. Das ist wirklich die schlauste Möglichkeit. Weil wenn du ein Bett im Nether lässt und Rechtsklick drückst und du da deinen Spawnpoint setzt, dann und stirbst, dann spawnst du ja im Nether. Das wollen die ja nicht. Deswegen einfach Bett explodieren lassen. Dann kannst du auch keinen Spawnpoint setzen. Voll smart.
that just with that little decision, it made for an entirely new form of combat in the way of bed bombing. In case you didn't know, leaves in Bedrock Edition turn white when you leave them
Ich finde es eigentlich cool. Das sollten die in Ding auch machen. In der Java.
in the snow. But if you play that version and you never noticed, that might not be your fault, since it's not an instant transition. And instead, it'll take some time in the tundra before it finally changes their tone. Bamboo
Ach so, das
grows
dauert
fast,
sogar.
too fast in some cases. And as it is, it'll only take 500 bamboo stalks in an automatic farm like so to produce more items than a hopper can actually process. Meaning that this
WTF?
simple farm produces more than 2.5 items per second.
Usually, when you craft something out of wood, it'll look like it's made of oak. But there are exceptions to that, like how item
stimmt.
frames and fletching tables look like they're made of birch.
Das macht eigentlich auch gar keinen Sinn. Warum ist das so?
Barrels look closest to spruce, cartography tables and grindstones
Warum
have a
ist das
dark
so?
oak base, and things like chests and jukeboxes don't look like any wooden plank. But sadly, acacia is left out.
If you place TNT over a slab and then ignite it, it will have a much smaller blast radius than if you explode it on the ground.
Das ist aber obvious.
In fact, there are cases where only the slab will be destroyed,
Ach so, auch nach oben und so. Okay, das
leaving
wusste
the
ich
rest
nicht.
of the block safe. And I wouldn't worry about this getting patched
ist ja
anytime
voll
soon,
krass.
since it's been open and unresolved on the bug tracker since 2014.
If you
Oh.
look closely, you'll notice that
Ist einfach schon ein Bug seit 2014. Keiner kümmert sich drum. Super.
bedrock and stone look very similar. And the reason is that in all versions, the bedrock texture is just a very high contrast version of the stone texture. And this is true whether using the current textures or the old programmer art textures. But hey, the same is basically true for endstone and cobblestone.
Das
so
stimmt, ja. Ich wusste irgendwas in der Richtung, aber das war mit Endstone und Cobblestone.
it's fair.
If you get a mob to stand on top of a cake, it'll just keep rotating in place, completely unable to move. And this is due to a pathfinding oversight in their AI code, which is why the same thing happens on fences
Verstehe ich immer noch nicht, warum die sich
as
drehen.
well.
How many items does it take for an iron pressure plate to give a full redstone signal of 15. Well, if we throw all the items on there, in total, it would take 9 stacks and 22 items minimum. Or just shy.
Ey, ich finde diese Eisendruckplatten und so ist eigentlich so ein geiles Feature, dass man da so den Redstone-Ding steuern kann, ist so geil
Of
eigentlich.
600 items. Or, you know, use a redstone torch.
Minecraft
Ja.
veterans remember a time where we didn't need to use blaze powder to brew up our potions. So,
Boah, als das noch war, ne? Du brauchst kein Blaze Powder. Puh.
why did this change? Well, according to one
Ab der 1.8, glaube
of
ich.
the
Nee,
game's developers,
danach 1.11 oder
Sarge,
1.12.
it's so the game's progression wouldn't be thrown off. Since when they added in igloos, it would have been less important to go to the nether if you could just find a brewing stand right underneath one in the overworld.
Das
Here's how you
stimmt.
get wool in a desert. Now that sounds ridiculous,
Hey, krass, man hätte einfach nicht in Nether ja doch. Warzen, ne? Ja, gut, scheißegal.
since you're not going to find any sheep out here, but back in 1.3, it was possible since desert temples generated with wool for the colorful bit.
Ich muss auch ehrlich sagen, das fand ich damals cool, aber actually auch ultra dumm. Mittlerweile, also das Terrakotta, was da jetzt ist actually viel besser. Aber da war einfach früher Wolle.
Though when terracotta was added in as hardened clay, those patterns were quickly replaced. And as a matter of fact, if you were to break every piece of terracotta in a naturally spawned desert temple, you'd be left with 55 pieces. 54 of them orange and 1 blue from the center.
These gears used to be in vanilla Minecraft. See, in the Java Edition in-dev
Oh, zum Glück ist das nicht drin, Alter. Guck mal, wie scheiße das aussieht. Oh mein Gott.
phase, there were these flat gears that could only be broken by letting water into them or
Boah, sieht
exploding
das
it.
scheiße
And if you
aus.
tried to break them like a normal block, it would just break the block behind them. And maybe that's why this buggy feature never made it into the official game.
This
zum
light
Glück.
block is the only high definition texture in Minecraft. At least it
Hä?
was. Before the texture changed in snapshot
Wie sah das aus?
21W18A, the Java edition light blocks had a 32 by 32 texture instead
Wow.
of the 16 by 16 that we're used to.
If you take a close look at any of the Minecraft doors, you'll notice that they have 2 sets of hinges on the opposite sides, instead of just one functional hinge. And while that might seem like a bug or mistake, Mojang did confirm on the bug tracker that this
Was?
is actually intentional. And if you look at the comments, it seems like some players aren't too happy about that. Sorry, Connor, I don't think they're gonna fix it. Did you know
GG.
Steve can sprint twice as fast as a full-speed minecart? Sure enough, if you were to sprint jump on a blue ice tunnel filled with trapdoors like so, it's possible that the player can move at
Das
a
sieht so
top
dumm aus
speed of
einfach.
18.5 blocks per second.
Puh.
And if you were to build this in the nether, we can consider it 8 times faster than the overworld. But
Ach so,
doing that
ja,
will cause your
mit-
hunger bar to drop just as quickly, so bring plenty of steak for the journey.
When they were first added, Minecraft saplings used to look like this. They were
Was ist das denn? Bruder, das sieht aus, als hätte jemand in Paint so einen Baum gemalt. Holy shit.
2 colors, just tan and green. But only 6 days later, they were given
Was
a new
ist das denn?
texture that looks a lot more like how they
Ja
look
gut,
today.
das ist besser.
What's the difference between this fence gate and this one that we have right here? Well, it's hard to notice, but when you place a fence gate next to a wall, it'll stoop down a little bit lower to match the height
Echt?
of the cobblestone wall. But what the cobblestone walls lack in size, they more than make up for in volume. And in fact,
ob-
if you were to craft a stack of cobblestone into cobblestone walls, you'd be left with exactly enough walls to fence off one 16 by 16 chunk.
Why is this pattern
That's
called
cool.
thing? Well, it's not just Mojang being humble. There's actually a good reason for it. If you were to translate the word Mojang from Swedish, it would roughly translate to the words gadget, doohickey, or thing.
According to NICHT,
That's cool.
torches were supposed to burn out after a while, but this never made it into the official game. However, if you play the Java Edition 2.0 snapshot, they do just that. And you'll even need a flint and steel just to
Boah, das eigentlich coole Idee, aber auch nervig, ne?
reignite them once they burn out, which is annoying, so let's just hope this stays as an April Fool's joke.
Ja.
This is not a light grey shulker box. At least it wasn't in snapshot 16W39B. But rather, in this experimental build, it was referred to as a silver shulker box instead. And understandably, it
silver?
was changed just the day after to match the standard names of the dye.
Ja,
and while we're
natürlich.
talking about light grey, I'd like you to take a look at this stained glass pane. Can't see it? Well, that's actually the point. Since the texture is flat and the inventory screen is
Der
light
ist so
grey,
dumm,
it's
das ist so dumm, dass man das einfach nicht sieht.
almost impossible to see a single light grey stained glass pane like this. And according to Mojang, that's intentional.
What's the most
Ja,
fuel you
natürlich.
can put in a furnace? Well,
sollen die
even though a
sonst machen?
lava bucket is the single best item, if you put in a full stack of coal blocks, it can smelt for over 14 hours straight, which is just
Was?
over 42 full Minecraft days of smelting. That's more than 50 times better than a single lava bucket.
Okay, das ist
But
krass.
you would need 576 coal to do this, so better get fortune on your pickaxe.
Before we even got concrete confirmed for the snapshots, Jeb first showed off the concept in a video video posted in February 2017. And in this clip, we
Concrete ist so ein geisteskranker Block in Minecraft. No joke.
see an early texture for the pink concrete powder, and how it would eventually harden on impact with water.
Back in Java Edition Classic, when you broke a wood log, it would drop the planks instead of the actual block, which
Was?
seems more like mine than craft to me. And
Wie
moving
dumm.
from logs to the nether counterparts, you'll notice that the crimson and warped stem blocks are the only logs in the game that have an animation. I would bet that most of you have never
Warte, was hat er gesagt?
and warped stem blocks are the only logs in the game that have an animation.
Okay, das stimmt. Die Only Logs, das sind die einzigen Holzdinger, die animiert sind. Das stimmt, aber es gibt mehrere animierte Blocks, aber da hat er recht.
I would bet that most of you have never experienced this Minecraft fact, because frankly, I hadn't either. But if you were to press a button next to a bell, there is a chance for the bell to play its ringing sound in reverse, much like this.
At some point, it was
Hä, echt? WTF?
possible for Endermen to move around and place cactus blocks, meaning it was theoretically possible for enough Endermen to increase the population of cacti in a desert and keep planting more as they grow, which is just as terrifying as it sounds, trust me. Maybe they made the really tall cactus from earlier.
It turns
Er
out
war's
piglins
einfach.
are the reason that there's no more netherite ore in the game, only the ancient debris that we're left with. At least that's according to this official Minecraft article for 1.16. In this, it says that pure netherite ore no longer exists, since the piglins mined it all out of the nether. Which begs the question, why would they switch from netherite to gold tools? So clearly they're not that smart.
Macht
If
keinen
you were to
Sinn.
try to use your diamond pick to mine a block of obsidian underwater while not standing on solid ground, it would take you just shy of 4 minutes at
Digga,
234
wer macht denn
seconds.
das?
And for that effort, just place a door and do it in 9.4 seconds.
Back in the survival
Ja gut, aber den Fakt kennt ja wirklich jeder, dass man früher einfach...
test for Java Edition, when you would mine gold ore, it would drop 1 to 3 golden blocks instead of golden ingots of the ore itself. And if only it still worked that way, huh? But here's the real question for you. Which came first, gold or diamond? Well, not only did gold come first, but the
Ja,
diamond
Gold,
block's
oder?
texture is just the same as the block of gold, but with a bluish tint. And that's true with the old programmer art and the new textures that
Das
came
ist ja
with
normal.
1.14's texture update.
809 quadrillion. That sounds like a big number, but it's actually how many uniquely crafted banner patterns there are. With
Boah, das ist eigentlich krass, wenn du überlegst, ne? Dass du in Minecraft so viele verschiedene Banner machen kannst, ist schon krass. Diese Banner sind so underrated, Retalk.
16 blank banners, 38 patterns of 16 colors each, and up to 6 patterns per banner, we can get this giant number. Though that includes a
Das
lot
ist
of
echt krass
duplicates
eigentlich.
because these two inverted patterns do look the same, but they count as separate entries and don't stack.
Lecterns
Ach
were
so,
added in
ja, okay.
1.14, but Dinnerbone wanted them in the game much sooner. In fact, back in 2012, Dinnerbone talked about a way to add in a stand that would make it easier to read the written books. But after
echt
various
gut.
complications, the idea was scrapped, and it wouldn't return until 2019, 7 years later.
This might look like a crate, but it's actually a piston.
Oh mein Gott.
Return until 2019, 7 years later.
This might
Alte Hive-Kisten. Hive MC Survival Games Kisten. Digga, als das noch eine Survival Games Chest war, war die Welt noch in Ordnung.
look like a crate, but it's actually a piston. See, in older versions of the game, it was possible to do a glitch called block update suppression. And with
So
this,
geil.
we could make this weird piston block that has a piston head on all sides. And hey,
So
the same
geil.
was possible for sticky pistons too.
In vanilla Minecraft, it's entirely possible to have a candle that's lit on fire even when it's underwater. And with the NBT tags like so, we can summon in that candle. Or if you're in Java, just use a debug stick like so.
You know, you
GG.
can make stairs out of netherite. It's a big flex, but in the April Fool's Infinite Snapshot, there was a special stair block called the Swaggiest Stairs
Das gab's wirklich nur in April-Version
ever.
Dings.
And to get these, they'd only naturally generate in the so-called missing dimension. So don't expect this in vanilla
random.
anytime soon.
Now, why is this quartz block better than this one? Well, by default, quartz blocks have a low blast resistance. But if you were to use 2 quartz slabs or a smooth quartz block instead, you can make a substantially stronger 4 than the alternative, all without
That's echt
sacrificing
smart.
the look of the regular quartz.
Voll krass eigentlich, ne?
TNT doesn't explode underwater, but if you add sodium to it, you get this special underwater TNT.
Ja gut, wo sind wir denn jetzt?
And this blue variant
In welcher
only exists in the
Minecraft-Version?
Education Edition. Though to do this in other
Hä, in der Education? Die habe ich gespielt.
versions, just place a sand block above TNT, ignite it, and
Das ist auch krass,
it'll
dass das
explode
geht.
underwater just the same.
According to the official Minecraft Combat Handbook, you can make an infinite lava source if you were to make a cross shape of nether bricks and then add lava to the middle. Okay, but that's obviously fake. Man,
Yeah.
even Dinnerbone confirmed that it was false. But even though this did come out in 2014, we would eventually get renewable lava when we got the dripstones and the caves and cliff update.
Dripstone auch so krass.
So the concept's true, but this is just a blatant lie. Every time that you place a coral block in Minecraft, Mojang donated 1 cent to charity. After Bedrock players had placed 10 million coral blocks underwater, Mojang decided to donate $100,000 to the Nature Conservancy
Haben die das echt
project.
gemacht?
And while I'm not so sure if they're still offering that, I will say that we'll do the same. So for every new subscriber that we get from this video, we'll donate $1 to the Nature Conservancy, up to 1,000 people. So by just hitting that red button, you can help to protect coral.
Up to 1,000 people hat er gesagt, das heißt, er donated einfach nur 1.000, er hat alle gescammt.
Reefs all around the world. And if you're already subscribed, don't unsubscribe and resubscribe. Just use your mom, dad, brothers, sisters.
Ja gut, das war's, ey, Digga, er macht jetzt da noch fett Werbung, was soll denn das? Nee, ey, aber an sich, gutes Video. Gutes Video. Gutes Video. Waren echt ein paar Fakten dabei, die ich tatsächlich nicht wusste. Aber wirklich gutes Video.